Welcome everybody to today's Transformation Tuesday. We are not celebrating, but we're honoring nursing home lives by looking at the first anniversary of our documentary, Honoring Nursing Home Lives Lost. We've been very fortunate to have this ongoing series, and we really need to have everybody involved. What we're looking at is the need for transformation of nursing homes in the United States and long-term care generally. For the most part, the whole system stinks. But we also have to remind ourselves that the issue of transformation of nursing homes and long-term care systems is not over. It's just barely begun, not by a long shot. Today, we're honoring the lives of those who reside in America's nursing homes, as well as those who have perished. Over the past years since the pandemic, over 200,000 lives have been lost in long-term care facilities due to COVID. This month marks the anniversary of our impactful documentary, Honoring Nursing Home Lives Lost. We must not forget that these lives matter. Yet, public attention is increasingly diverted from this important issue. Nursing home residents and those receiving long-term care services are almost always ignored. In the same fashion that others have demanded attention, we collectively must do that here. Our call to action today is to ask you not only to reach out to your statewide and federal government officials to demand a transformation of the delivery of long-term care services, but also that we must shift the focus to truly person-centered care, not only the needs of the residential facility. Thriving in these residents is possible, but has not yet been attained. While the pandemic brought waves of death and continues to do so, let's do something together. What we encourage you to do is to reach out to us, reach out to your elected officials, write a letter to the editor, send love to your loved ones in nursing homes, become a long-term care ombudsman, or however you feel you can contribute with the rights of older people, particularly those in long-term care facilities. Today, our panelists are reflecting back on the horrors of the past year, and they also look forward to the hard road ahead with regard to advocacy and changing the paradigm of nursing homes in America. Each one of our panelists has been highlighted in our documentary. They continue to have much to say and to inspire. It's important that we listen to their words and feel impacted by them and to see what all of us can do together to make a positive change. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. And as we move forward, if you have questions, feel free to put them into the chat. We have a very full agenda. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to have remarks from Assemblymember Ron Kim. Then we're going to have Reverend Harper. We're going to have Kathy Encino, who always gives inspiring and impactful comments. And we're going to have Vince Pierce from Open Doors, who will no doubt give us more to acknowledge and to do on. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm going to do an off-the-cuff introduction of Ron Kim's remarks, which are pre-recorded. He couldn't be with us today, but he wanted to make sure that what we're doing continues to have resonates importantly. Ron Kim is the Assembly member from Flushing, Queens, and he has become the most important leader with regard to nursing home and long-term care reform in New York State in the legislature. He is dogged, he is committed, he is a leader, he is somebody who all of us need to feel inspired by and to work with. We're so honored that he has continued to honor us by participating in the Transformation Tuesdays, as well as other opportunities. So Emily, would you be so kind as to cue Ron Kim's remarks? Okay, this is where technology comes in.
Okay.
Can't hear. Just give us a moment, please. Technology is perfect, except when it's not.
Okay, can you see?
And Steve, I don't know if we can hear yet.
How about now?
Hey everyone, it's Assembly Member Ron Kim. I am here in Albany this week, wrapping up the last few days of session for 2022. I know that every Tuesday we have Transformation Tuesdays with Gray Panthers of New York City. And once again, I've been asked to join this week to talk about the future of nursing homes, protecting all the older adults, and what we can do to improve long-term care in our great state of New York. First, let me just thank you, everyone, for participating and all the experts that log in for these panels all across the country. I am sorry that I can't be with you live. We're very busy in Albany these days, and next time I hope to not only be in a Zoom or a virtual call with you, but see everyone in person very soon. So, what is the main problem that is driving our broken long-term care and nursing home system? And I think it boils down to three words. We have a system that prioritizes profits over care. Profits over care. And it's a simple way to look at it, but no matter how complicated and multi-layered these problems are, this is where I've been landing in. That no matter what we do, whether it's legislatively, administratively, or through the media or whatever, we end up prioritizing profits over care. So, how do we get here? When we have a nursing home industry like in New York State that's roughly 65 to 70% privatized, and of which many are run by dark money, private equity, hedge funds, LLCs that we don't even know who the owners and shareholders are that's driving these companies. We have serious problems when private equity has dominating the public sphere. When private equity intersects with the care sector that drives their revenue on public dollars, Medicaid, Medicare dollars, we have a serious conflation and a conflict of interest of how we're financing the building of these care facilities. So it's problematic because private equity firms that are trying to scale and commit as fiduciary officers to their shareholders the guaranteed profits that they promised to raise the capital to become these funds. They're cutting corners, they're cutting staff, they're eliminating food, quality care services to do whatever they can to borrow against the current nursing homes as they scale and buy up, consume other facilities, but that's how they make their profit margins work. Now, when we as a government give the trust for these facilities with public dollars that we want to take care of our elderly and older adults in these facilities, we do not want the facilities to look at the Medicare dollars and with only the perspective of how much we can exploit the system, extract as much money, and fulfill our fiduciary duty as private equity firms. This is not a good model. So, if I have to break down why we have a problem with profits over care, I think private equity is one. Corporate politics, I think, is about 25% of the problem. When we have politicians that prioritize the needs of private capital and private equity over the needs of our most vulnerable people, and they care about facilitating the private markets over protecting our most vulnerable populations, we have a direct problem. The other, I think, component, I think there's three components that drive profits over care, is the notion of stabilizing industries or industry stability. It gives corporate politicians cover that to do horrible policies under the guise of industry stability. We need to stabilize and the care sector, so we can't do too much. We need to make more space and give more reimbursements without any public accounting. They all do this under the guise of industry stability. So I believe when we hear words like industry stability, all red flags will go up. So three things that drive the profits over care model: private equity, corporate politics, industry stability. Now, under this impossible system, we've been able to have a few wins, meaningful wins. I'm not talking about just band-aids and a few dollars here and there that we celebrate as big wins, but I'm talking about meaningful systemic wins that have shifted the narrative again toward protecting our residents, our older adults, and putting people over the profits of um, of our communities. Number one, we successfully restored the rights for older and disabled people since 2020. When when the former governor gave out a near blanket corporate immunity, shielding some of the worst nursing home facilities from civil and criminal liability, he essentially gave them a license to kill people without any consequences. We repealed it and restore people's rights. Nursing home residents have codified rights as patients and residents that was passed into law 25 years ago at the federal and state level. They have recourse even more so than hospital patients. Uh, we restore those rights so to make sure that they have recourse when and if the state and local government fails to protect them. They have access to the courts to make sure that their rights are protected. As a result, we have pending civil lawsuits for the last few months that came out from negligent cases around these facilities, and this is one clear win that balances the power against the private equity investors. Number two, we've added new funds toward nursing home oversight. Under my committee, the Committee on Aging, we have the long-term care ombudsman program that haven't had any resources in place to do their job, to come into these facilities, to to call out the fraud, the corruption, the negligence, and really protect the residents and to make sure that the residents know their rights and their families feel secure that there's people looking out for them. We've added significant funding, still not enough. We need to come back and give this program even more funding, and we are passing legislation to give them more teeth toward checking some of these bad nursing home facilities. Number three, after many years of private arbitration, 1199 SEIU came out with private attorneys from the home care industries and found 42 home care agencies guilty of mass wage theft. Internally, 1199 admitted that when you go back 10 years, there's about $6+ billion of stolen wages by the home care agencies. The verdict was correct, but the settlement was woefully low. So out of $6 billion, they've settled on $30 million, of which 30 million, almost 10 million, is going to legal fees. So we're talking about home care workers in communities like mine that have spent years in 24-hour shifts, giving their life to take care of our older adults. Um, Having gone through this process of lawsuits, now being told
Excuse
you're only
me,
going to
ladies, are
get
you gonna be here for a little bit,
0.01%
like
of what
20
you're owed.
minutes?
What is the
I wanna
impact
walk around, but
of
I don't
such
want my paper to get
of
stolen.
a
I grew up on a
settlement
couch,
agreement?
so I wonder if I can rest on
We're
the bench,
telling an
keep an
industry
eye,
that's
and as
already
soon as I
struggling
finish
to
walking,
recruit more workers that we are not going to enforce the very state wage laws, Wage Parity Act, and overtime laws that we've instituted, because as an industry, we're going to hide behind forced arbitration, and we do not care about your worker rights. What kind of message are we sending to potential workers who are thinking about the home care industry in the future? We're telling them that we do not care about you protecting your rights, and we are not only, and we're also not going to increase the wages for this industry. This is a systemic problem of reimbursements, of agencies that knowingly committed wage theft because they felt comfortable this could be settled privately. Um, while we have hundreds of good home care agencies that have done the right thing and negotiated better contracts with intermediaries and raised even money on their own through foundations and funds to pay for the workers' overtime, their good behavior wasn't properly rewarded either. So the entire system that's so critical in keeping people out of institutionalized care, which home care, is also very much broken. And it's complicated, it's political, there are unions involved, there's mega nonprofits that who you and I are close to who are also implicated. But these are the uncomfortable conversations that we collectively must come together and have to really get to the core problem of a broken care system that is not right now capable of confronting and alleviating the rising crisis in in older adult communities. So while we have these wins, overall we're still losing because this is what's happening. There's private equity investors waiting on the sideline, trying to take over, invest in these facilities, long-term care facilities, and institutionalized care. There's mega nonprofits holding the line against private equity and private entities taking over this space as well, but they're doing so by creating a and defending a corrupt system that preys on immigrant, uh, you know, mostly women home care workers who have lost years of stolen wages in a broken system. So this is the ecosystem that we're dealing with, and obviously if we systemically attack the problems by creating a robust and aggressive public plan for long-term care, we can fix this one by one. And that is what we should be focused on moving forward. What is the public plan, a sound public plan for long-term care that gives public sector the ability to come in and finance these facilities moving forward, but also be able to be in a position to take over um, failing for-profit facilities. Right now, we don't have that kind of a clout in the public sector, and we need to change our thinking culture about how we step up in the public sector and offer real solutions where we can exercise our public capital to to help finance and reshape the payment structure, and really deliver a sustainable care system that works for older adults. Thank you all. Hey everyone, it's Assembly Member Ron Kim.
So I want to say, first of all, thank you to Assemblymember Ron Kim. That was clear, passionate, important, and not necessarily always obvious potential solutions. We are in his debt that he is spearheading this important initiative to transform nursing homes in New York State. This has implications not only for New York, but for the country. We need to support him. We need to support all of the initiatives that are going on, and we need to remember that the purpose of all of this is for the protection and the care, the proper person-centered care of the residents in these facilities. It need not be about the owners, particularly private equity, whose most important concern is profit. Nothing wrong with profit, but profit seems to dominate over care. We've discussed that in one of our prior webinars. Now, I just want to also acknowledge with Assemblymember Kim, his personal relationship to these issues. His uncle passed away in a nursing home in Queens due to COVID. And then more subsequently, his mother passed away due to COVID, not in a nursing home. He is committed. Let us become his assistants as we work forward. Now, our next panelist is Reverend Lynn Castile Harper. You may remember her from our beautiful documentary, and she's going to be addressing part of what needs to be remembered, which is the component of spirituality and the component of remembering that these lives are important. We can never forget. Let me do the brief introduction. Reverend Lynn Castile Harper is the Minister of Older Adults at the Riverside Church in the city of New York. Before joining Riverside, she was a nursing home chaplain at a continuing care retirement community. She's the author of On Vanishing: Mortality, Dementia, and What It Means to Disappear, a New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice, and a Chautauqua Literary and Scientific Circle selection for 2021. Lynn completed her Master's of Divinity at Wake Forest University and a chaplaincy residency at Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital. Lynn has been an incredible supporter of our efforts, and I know that she wants to make sure that all of us understand and feel comfortable with the spirituality aspects and that all must be remembered. Reverend, would you please be so kind as to start? We're looking forward to your comments.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me. Thank you to the Gray Panthers of New York City and your incredible advocacy. I'm really humbled to be a part. I bring you greetings from the Riverside Church in the city of New York. We sit in Morningside Heights, and if you're not familiar with our community, we're a 1,600 member interracial, interdenominational, and international congregation who celebrates a long legacy of seeking to do justice as integral to faith. I have the joy of serving as the minister of older adults there for the past 6 years. And as Jack mentioned, prior to that, I served at a 1,400 resident continuing care retirement community where I was assigned to be the chaplain of the assisted living and skilled nursing facility. So I come to you today as a pastor in a progressive Christian denomination. I come to you as a professional chaplain, a creative nonfiction writer of dementia, spirituality, and aging. But foremost, I come to you today, in the words of E. Cummings, as a human merely being on a journey trying to figure out what it means to be alive in this global moment, amidst this global crisis. How to live, age, and join others in meaningful engagement with the world within and around me, especially when the world brings such devastation, including the preventable, unjust, and mass death of residents and staff of nursing homes. So whether or not you are religious, no doubt you are familiar with the character of Job in the Bible. In a nutshell, Job, an upright and good person, endures an onslaught of tragedy. His livestock is decimated, his servants murdered, his sons and daughters killed when a house collapses on them, and Job himself breaks out in sores that cover his body. Job is devastated, despondent, and enraged, and rightfully so. When his friends come to visit Job, shortly after learning all that has befallen him, their very first response is one of silent respect and reverence for Job's great suffering. The scripture says, they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Now, a different conversation for another day is when they open their mouths and provide all kinds of bad advice. But they get it right off the bat, when they offer no advice or attempts at making sense of the suffering. They don't offer tips for grieving or try to cheer or guide him. They do the right thing. They offer presence. They grieve with one who grieves. And so here we are today with over 1 million deaths at our back in the United States, and 23% of those linked to nursing homes. With the very people we serve, the people we love, older people in care facilities or in the community being impacted so acutely, perhaps the most genuine response in this moment is one first of silence. Silence in the face of such immense loss and suffering. So many are eager to move on. The losses glossed over, the drumbeat of normalcy beating loudly in our culture. And while we are grateful for vaccines and scientific advancements and political will, we know it is not finished. Perhaps our grieving has just begun. For a moment, perhaps we lay aside the pursuit of doing something. Everyone on this call is a doer and a fixer, which is beautiful and wonderful. But perhaps first we offer a deep acknowledgement of this crisis, considering what it means on existential and spiritual levels. And so we gather today, good people of good conscience, people of all faiths and no faith, united to mourn, remember, and honor the nursing home lives lost to COVID-19 in the United States. We know that each number represents a beloved individual, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, sibling, aunt, uncle. Each life is unique and sacred. And so I'd like to light a candle, and this is a little hard over Zoom, so I hope you can see, but I'd like to light a candle in lamentation and remembrance for each life lost, and with reverence for each person's worth. And then I invite us into a moment of silence. So of course, we don't stay silent. As people of conscience, unjust, preventable, and mass death compels us to speak up and speak out. We don't move on. We don't get over it. We allow suffering to speak. The philosopher Cornel West says, the condition of truth is that we allow suffering to speak. And that's one reason why I love this movement. I so respect it, that it's allowing suffering to speak as a condition of truth as we work toward not having suffering be the last word. So we don't move on and we don't get over it. We will hold space, we will remember, we will act, and we will speak. Over and over again, the prophets of my faith tradition give this message: seek justice, rescue the oppressed, defend the orphan, plead the case of the widow. In the New Testament book of James, it says, true religion is to care for the orphans and widows in their distress. In other words, the community has a moral, spiritual, ethical responsibility to prioritize and protect the vulnerable, and to confront and transform those policies, practices, and systems that make people vulnerable. Transformation Tuesday. I love that word we use, transformation. It's a strong word. It's a new vision, a just vision that involves calling upon our most sacred values, our most expansive selves, to cast a vision of wholeness in which people across age and ability are welcomed in the fullness of life and well-being, that we as a nation are only whole and well when nursing home residents and staff are wholly respected in their full humanity. So where will we be in 2023? I don't know. But I do know that the vision is just. And if we believe Dr. King that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice, then let us persist with hope. And so I light a second candle for hope. This hope is rooted in the collective. None of us do this work alone. This is the movement in which contribution is the source of strength. Each person, each agency, each institution, each gathering, each letter and petition, each donation of time, talent, or money, each prayer, each protest, linking together, weaving together. Together, we create something larger and stronger than the sum of our parts. And so we have two candles burning, one representing lamentation and one representing hope. They do not cancel each other out. They coexist and they need each other to keep us grounded in truth and focused on a more just future. Both lead us toward transformation. And so may the giver of all light be with us all encouraging and strengthening us for the journey ahead. Thank you.
Reverend Harper, thank you. Beautiful, inspirational, useful words and framework. Sometimes we forget that this comes in the, has a spirituality dimension, and that the wholeness of the human being needs to be addressed. Thank you for reminding us on this important aspect. You're beautiful. Now, our next panelist is Catherine Encino. She is always impactful, knowledgeable, inspirational, and thoughtful. Psychotherapist Cathy Encino has added to her private practice vast experience in deep nursing home transformation from custodial institutions into beloved communities in which residents, staff, and families thrive. She's been a designated scholar in residence in aging. Cathy urges all who value justice to pursue the profound systemic reform that present and future generations of elders deserve and need. We're honored that she's going to be giving us some important remarks. Thank you. Cathy, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Jack. Gray Panthers has a wonderful tradition in uniting the generations together. We understand that in the year 2060, the elderly population in the United States will nearly double. So it's quite urgent that Gray Panthers continue the tradition of an intergenerational approach, because we all want to collectively help transform aging services and supports for present elderly people like myself, and for future generations, so that people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, when they become old, in the blink of an eye, it happens very quickly, they will have better resources than we have now, and certainly not the dire conditions that elderly people face today. You know, mourning is more complicated when the circumstances around the death of the person you love have contributed unnecessarily to that person's suffering. And that happened to nursing home residents and staff in nursing homes during COVID. So what I'm going to do is to review some of the details of that, so we understand, as our previous speakers have spoken, so we understand the details of what needs to be transformed within the system. And I'm also going to, though, briefly touch on what's happening in nursing homes today, which are in crisis, so that elderly people today in nursing homes are facing crises that we didn't have several years ago, crises that are complicated by COVID still. So one of the remedies that everyone speaks about, and I certainly support, is that we need adequate staffing. We need enough people to help care for elderly people who need additional services in order to live well. But we have a dramatic shortage in staff, because as Reverend Lynn Castile Harper told us, also not only residents, but many staff died in nursing homes. So we've lost an incredible number of staff. In addition to that, nursing homes became such dangerous places that the census has dropped. People, not only have residents died, but people dread going there because they view nursing homes as dangerous places. So with a reduced census, reimbursement is reduced. With reduced reimbursement, there isn't enough money to hire adequate staff. So that's one of the problems we're confronting, and one of the solutions that we need to address in detail. I'm sorry, someone in the building apparently is beginning some drilling. I'm sorry, I don't know where that's coming from. I hope it doesn't affect us. I'm coming closer to you if that's possible. Mourning was difficult for people because they visited their relative, many of them every day, holding their loved one's hand, brushing his or her hair, bringing in photos of the grandchildren, talking about events in the family history. And residents enjoyed and savored these visits. Suddenly, the family members were told they can't come anymore. Someone decided that visitors, family members could no longer visit their loved ones. And we know we expect our elderly people to die, but we expect to accompany them, to continue to hold their hand, to continue to brush their hair, to continue to talk with them. And suddenly, nursing home residents had difficulty understanding, why isn't he coming anymore? What happened? It felt like a betrayal, like an abandonment. And explanations didn't help get through to people. So that extra suffering stresses families enormously who are grieving, also because they couldn't be with their loved one for months, day after day after day, seeing that suffering. It was very difficult for them. The other thing is we have to look at what happened when COVID came. Well, the industry predicted correctly that COVID was going to be devastating in nursing homes. So they immediately, as Assemblyman Kim told us, convinced federal and state officials to impose immunity so that nursing homes would be protected from lawsuits. Sorry about that noise. Sorry, it's also distracting me. So immunity was imposed on all of the states. And it's understandable that institutions want to protect themselves. It's human nature. It's human nature that when we're threatened with something, we want to protect ourselves. And organizations, unfortunately, even organizations developed to help vulnerable populations, generally protect the organization first, even at the risk of being adversarial to the vulnerable people that they're supposed to be helping. And that happened during COVID, where the industry not only imposed the immunity provisions, but they did not advocate for their staff or residents, no PPE. Staff were not given protective personnel equipment. Administrators were pleading with the media, we're not getting protective equipment for our staff. So naturally, staff were also contributing to the residents getting COVID because there was insufficient protection coming forward for them. Meanwhile, in New York State, it may have been the worst of all of the states. Ron Kim alluded to the connection between the industry and the political systems in our country. So it has gotten to such an extent now that our governor, our former governor at that time, issued a directive on March 25th saying that our hospitals were so overflowing with COVID patients that nursing homes had to start accepting COVID patients into the nursing home. A really terrifying and horrifying proposition. And yet he imposed it on nursing homes. And people died. It spread like wildfire. A neighbor of mine, a man with advanced Parkinson's, who was in a nursing home right across Central Park from where I live. I could see that nursing home on Fifth Avenue. Well, he was moved out. His wife wasn't permitted to visit him anymore. He could no longer communicate. The staff who knew him and his wife and were very loving found that they were directed to remove him immediately and move him to a nursing home in Brooklyn, which is against the law, but it took place. And so he was surrounded by staff that didn't know him and whom he didn't know. He was unable to speak with them. They didn't know who he was. And he died among strangers. And that's because of former Governor Cuomo's March 25th directive, which enabled the nursing home to earn $800 a day rather than the $250 or so of Medicaid. This is while the Mercy ship was right on shore, poised to accept COVID positive patients from hospitals, but that never took place. And the Javits Center was ready to accept COVID positive patients, but that didn't take place. Instead, nursing homes were told to just transfer out people so you could put more lucrative COVID positive patients in. This is what Ambassador Kim was warning us about. Not only are nursing home residents often treated like commodities, but taxpayers are too, because we want our precious dollars to be spent to help people lead good lives, to be cared for properly and the staff adequately paid. We don't want our money to go to greedy profiteers, which is happening. Many not-for-profits cannot afford to continue to function, and so they're increasingly bought up by for-profit nursing homes. And as a result, some for-profit nursing homes may do a good job, but many of the big chains don't. And so I'm hearing from dedicated nurses who've been in this field for 30 to 35 years, saying, Kathy, I'm in a nursing home now that was just bought by such and such a chain. They told me the chain, it's a notorious chain, well known to be a horrible provider. And she said, now it's a human factory. The staff have been more than cut in half, maybe 2/3 of the staff removed to make money for the profiteers. And the nurse is telling me, and certified nursing assistants are telling me, Kathy, these are human factories. I can't stand it anymore. I can't stand being part of a system that treats people like they were objects. You can't care for people relationally and lovingly and kindly when you are so short-staffed. Meanwhile, the governor appointed people on the Public Health and Health Planning Council that rubber stamps these profiteers, knowing they don't pass the character and competence test at all. But our Department of Health in New York has been so compromised, and the Public Health and Health Planning Council, also former governor appointed, permits these profiteers to continue to flourish. We have to stop this. We need greater representation of resident rights on the Public Health and Health Planning Council. The other thing is the guardrails didn't work. In the midst of this systemic failure, government's main responsibility is protect the health and safety of its people. But it regards the corporations as their primary client. It's okay, corporations are a client of the political system, but so is the average person that built this country, that raised its families, that taught it in schools. And yet government seems to favor its relationship with the industry over, even when the industry's policies are adversarial to the elder. And so it's a conflict of interest, I believe, when government officials and both political parties accept huge contributions from the lobbyists. One has to say that has to stop. And we need an informed and energized citizenry that says, we're not going to stand for this anymore. No government official with conscience should be accepting money from the industry and then imposing practices which will rob not-for-profit nursing homes of what they need to function well and reward the profiteers. So here's what I'm going to suggest that I know is very controversial, but when you get to be my age, you don't care about creating controversy and being criticized for it. So here we go. I believe that the Medicaid rate needs to increase so that not-for-profits won't go out of business, that they will be able to continue to function, provided that any increase in Medicaid is strictly scrutinized and held accountable for. So the profiteers can't continue to profit from it. Unless we increase the Medicaid rate, the not-for-profits will continue to go out of business. They cannot survive. And we will have a worse situation, and younger people will have nothing to look forward to. So the Medicaid rate needs to increase. And the main thing, which I have done for many, many years now, is helping transform nursing homes from custodial institutions that are bleak and dismal and really illness promoting places, transform those into vibrant communities. The Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987 is the North Star for all of us. It's already been done. There were very dedicated people at that time, the same time as when Thurgood Marshall was making great inroads in justice and civil rights. At that time, very courageous people formed the Nursing Home Reform Act, which said two very important things: adequate staffing, which certainly we need. But the second thing they said was that in every nursing home, every individual must be helped to achieve his or her highest practicable level of functioning, physically, socially, and cognitively, the highest level practicable. And that never came to be for two reasons. One, it wasn't funded, and it needs to be funded. But I think the main reason that it never came to be is that no one explained how to do it. No one demonstrated how to achieve it. And so I'm issuing this invitation. Anyone who is committed to saying, I want to move from this autocratic totalitarian system into a democratic community where people can thrive, residents, staff, and families, and nursing homes can thrive. They keep shooting themselves in the foot every time their self-interest predominates. And if we can help them transform into beloved communities, my invitation is, I will do this pro bono with any group that gives me a half hour to an hour to show exactly how that is to take place and help people do it with no cost whatsoever. So we can have citizens who are informed, who will create the street heat to say, in our lifetime, justice shall we pursue. In our lifetime, on our watch, we're going to transform nursing homes from custodial, dreary institutions into beloved communities where everybody can thrive. Thank you.
God bless you, Kathy. Always inspirational, always moving. Yes, time for change, time for transformation, overdue.
Thank you, Jack.
God bless.
Thank you.
Now, we do need to move on, and we also have other inspiration. This time, it's from someone who had been in our documentary before and who is a nursing home resident himself. Vince has been in the Kohler Rehabilitation Center for some time, and he clearly understands what the issues are because he sees it firsthand. He saw COVID firsthand. Vince was raised in Newburgh, New York at a time when that city held the New York State's record for homicides. Vince got involved, my glasses are not what they used to be, in the street life at a young age. After a bullet put him in a wheelchair in his late 20s, Vincent moved to Kohler Rehabilitation and Nursing Care Center on Roosevelt Island. After years living in the city-run facility with scant resources and opportunity, Vincent joined the Justice Initiative, Open Doors, and began to write poetry and focus on his first love, music. In 2019, Vince produced his first album with fellow community members and performed for audiences of all ages and backgrounds. With a grant from the Center for Cultural Innovation, Vince started Zing, a music program aimed at keeping kids off the street and in the studio. He's composing music for the forthcoming documentary Fire Through Dry Grass. He's also the founder of Nursing Home Lives Matter movement, which seeks to protect nursing home residents and workers who have been systematically disempowered and endangered by public officials and healthcare administrators. Remember, nursing home lives matter. Vince is going to be providing us with remarks, and one of his greatest gifts is the poetry that he writes and the poetry that members of Open Door write and deliver, impactful. Vince, would you be so kind as to share your remarks and poetry?
Yes, hi, how you doing, everyone? Jack, thanks for having me in this much so needed event, like getting voices out that not only happened to me, but it happened to a lot of people. I am a current nursing home resident on Roosevelt Island in New York. And what I experienced was street horror. And it took a while for me to really, really speak up. And they didn't do, it's like they didn't have care for humans, period. And like Kathy said, they started bringing nursing home um, COVID patients to the nursing home and not worrying about the residents that they already have there. They wasn't separating nobody. So if one person on the unit got it, it just spread it to almost everybody getting sick. Seeing a lot of people that died in the nursing home, and for nursing homes and even this state to falsely say this many people died when it was way more really encouraged me to really step up and speak out. And from that, I got a lot of things changed and had events around what was going on. Started a thing called Nursing Home Lives Matter, and we're just continuing to work and making sure that not only the nursing home that I live in, the nursing home all over the countries, because when I hear these stories from other people that lived in nursing homes, our stories are the same. You know, what they seen, what they went through, the lack of care from administration, and it really inspired me to start really getting in the forefront regarding whatever trouble I would get into. And which all of that advocacy got me, you know, with Congresswoman Maloney, a lot of attention from our elected officials over here, and we formed a thing called a task force to make sure that everyone is held accountable and they're not just passing it down. And yeah, and it's just inspired me to write this piece that I will read for you. Fire through dry grass is what I experienced. But this grass was never green, or did it ever smell like that fresh cut grass on a summer morning? The fire was never visible, but oh, did it spread like a wildfire. You see, the grass was never your actual grass, and the fire was never your actual fire. The grass was human being, and the fire was what we know today as COVID-19. It all started mid-February with rumors of a virus so contagious that you can contract it from the closest stranger. I didn't believe it. But at the same time, I can hear the late Reverend Minnie Bell Powell, my grandma, saying, God is coming, boy, you better get right with him. By late February, it hit my home harder than Mike Tyson in his prime. Body after body, ambulance after ambulance is what I witnessed. Scared to close my eyes at night, to wake up gasping for air. Till one morning, the fever and the shakes hit me. Nurse, give me a Tylenol, I have a toothache. Knowing that wasn't what it was, but knowing I had to tell my mind that's what it is, just so I can shake it off. My favorite guy, Roy Watson, would have never thought he would wake up gasping for air. Not even being able to grab his phone and dial 911. But through this poem, I honor you, Roy, and the others COVID has taken away. The grass is still burning without a firefighter in sight. And the man who made such an invisible weapon of mass destruction is sitting back saying mission accomplished. Once again, thank y'all for having me, and I appreciate seeing so many dedicated people to this cause and helping making a change. Because one thing I did realize that your voice really can be heard. You just got to reach the right people and don't stop complaining. And to me, I can speak for myself, but to see that the ones that can't and how they're taking advantage of even worse than what I am is really sad. Once again, thank you all.
Thank you so much, Vince. Your poem is moving. Your story is important. It's really important to get the voice of the people who are affected. It becomes personal. We're grateful to you. We're grateful to Kathy. We're grateful to Reverend Harper. We're grateful to Assemblymember Kim. We're grateful to everyone who's on this call and to others. This has been a beautiful spirit that we have. Let's transfer that into action. We're going to be working with all of you, and we invite everybody on this call to be part of the solution, or at least part of the process towards the effective solution. We have many miles to go, and we've taken a couple of steps, but there's still many miles to go. Thank you to everybody, and God bless everyone here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, I'm going to sign off, and we will be posting this Transformation Tuesday on our website, on our YouTube channel, which is Gray Panthers NYC. I encourage all of you to also visit our enhanced website. Still needs a little bit of editing, but that's graypanthersnyc.org. We also encourage you to work with us on our Nursing Home Lives, Honoring Nursing Home Lives initiative. And we would love to have all of you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Jack, is the best way to be a part of Gray Panthers and keep in touch through the website?
You can do that, or you could do jack@graypanthersnyc.org.
Cool.
And
Thank
then also there's the volunteer application, which is on our website, which is also an important way to do that. All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.